What's up, you guys? This is Adam Gillespie with Rancid and Sweaty Calves coming at you with yet another video. Yes, it's another car video. Main reason why is because I'm going to be talking about the Steven Crowder versus Daily Wire debacle that's currently going on. Now, I haven't really divulged much information regarding this on my YouTube channel, but I am a pretty big Steven Crowder fan. I'm also a pretty big Daily Wire fan. So to see these two conservative conglomerates going at each other, it's pretty saddening to say the least. However, when you actually take a look at the legalese and the wording and the description of the contract according to the contract and its own definitions, the contract that Daily Wire sent over was really scummy. It really was. It was really scummy. It was really low. To summarize what was going on in that contract, because I do believe that there's a pretty big misunderstanding as of right now. Within that contract, there was several stipulations. If Steven Crowder was banned or demonetized on certain platforms, there would be a certain percentage markdown of the fee payment towards the Louder with Crowder crew. So the payment was $50 million, right? The payment was $50 million. That was over the course of 4 years, and a possible additional $25 million over the next 2 if Daily Wire decided to keep the Louder with Crowder's show. Now, here's another thing about that, is that in that same junction there that I was just talking about, if Daily Wire decided to keep Louder with Crowder, meaning that Louder with Crowder would not have the opportunity to ignore that. This was in the opening proposal, that the Daily Wire would have the sole authority to decide if they wanted to keep the Louder with Crowder show at the end of 4 years, meaning that Louder with Crowder wouldn't have the ability to decide for themselves. Now, this is the opening negotiable proposal. This doesn't necessarily mean that it would be a 100% contracted agreement unless Steven Crowder signed that. So I don't want to make any qualms about this. This was a negotiable proposal. This was a opening proposal. However, the opening proposal, being as scummy as it was, is pretty low, especially coming from a conservative group like Daily Wire. Whereas if you look at the business model of something like Rumble obviously takes a revenue based off of how many Rumbles come in, based off how many subscribers and users there are, but it is also an independently creative, friendly zone. So that Rumble is acting as a sort of anti-YouTube to YouTube, whereas Daily Wire was more so purchasing a person's properties, a person's talents, and a person's product, and having complete ownership over it in perpetuity according to the opening negotiable proposal. Now, going back to the money, the $50 million. I'm going to get all this stuff out of the way as quickly as I possibly can. The $50 million over the course of 4 years, which is the opening negotiable contracted agreement, which would be this is of course the proposal. The contracted 4 years, $50 million total. That was the low ball estimate. They even admitted it was a low ball estimate, and they were willing to pay him more. But they didn't start out with their Golden Goose Award. You know, they didn't decide to go out with the best possible contract to reel in Steven Crowder. They decided to go out with their worst possible contract, which, when you look at this and you look at the actual legalese and the wording, it is absolutely scummy. Per demonetized platform, per platform that would demonetize Steven Crowder, there would be a 25% reduction rate on the fee paid towards Steven Crowder. Now, I do think it was mostly regarding YouTube in said contract. I unfortunately don't have the contract here in front of me, but I did read through it. I did read through it according to what the Daily Wire posted on their video. I also read through it according to the information that Steven Crowder, I actually didn't get to read it on Steven Crowder's channel, he just read it out. But I got to, from what I am able to understand, from what I'm able to see on said contract, on said negotiable proposal, for YouTube, a demonetized thing would result in a 25% markdown. And per ban on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube would be a 20% markdown. So he could lose up to 80 to 85, maybe even 90%, and maybe even 95% based off of the amount of demonetizations and the amount of bannings that are possible through these multiple social media platforms. He would have the possibility of losing up to 95% of revenue income provided by Daily Wire, and on top of that, they would force the production costs of the show onto Steven. That's the wording of the contract. Jeremy Boring tried to make it seem as though, oh, Steven likes to produce his own content, so we just wanted to allow it so that he could produce his own content, but in the contract it said Louder with Crowder or S. Crowder, Steven Crowder, would bear the production costs of the show. So that wording does not mean we're going to let Steven Crowder produce his own show and make his own content based off of what he likes, and we'll cash flow, we'll pay for him. That is saying you're getting this X amount of money. This is the top this is the top amount that we're going to pay you. You're getting X amount of money, and you're going to have to bear the production costs, and you'll still have to bear those production costs if you get demonetized on YouTube, if you get banned on all these different social media platforms, at which point we will cut your pay by a large percentage, a 20 to 25% percentage rate per platform that he is banned off of. Sorry, that was a bad camera angle there for a second. Which would ultimately result in getting down to 5% at the minimum, at the maximum amount of bans. It could result in up to a minimum of 5% left over fee payout towards a lot of the Crowder Studios. Not to mention, Daily Wire in this opening proposal would have gotten complete and total control and ownership over everything regarding Louder with Crowder. Every product, every show, every piece of content that they have, their entire back catalog, and they would force Steven Crowder to engage in creating more content than he ever had before, on top of the 192 average episodes per year that he would be creating. They would require him to create one full, high-quality, feature-length film, video, documentary-style thing per year, and force him into monthly obligations, monthly videos, and force him into quarterly obligations, quarterly videos, where he would be engaging in certain things. He's already probably over-swamped and overworked with the 4 episodes a week that he's doing, and with his small amount of employees. I think he's only got 25 to 30 employees on his platform. So he's already overworked working on that, working on sketches behind scenes, coming up with content that can be created outside of the regular daily show. He's coming up with Change My Mind. He's going on tour for comedy routines. He's got doctor's visits, doctor's appointments. He's got all this other stuff. He's already got all this stuff on his plate. And then on top of all that, they want him to add on more to that, overworking him even further than he's already overworked, to the point where they would actually forcefully cause a detriment in pay per thing that he missed. Now, that's not necessarily a bad situation. You know, you don't show up to work, you don't get paid. But the fact of the matter is he's already overworked in those certain situations, and they're not giving him any extra money, maybe a few crumbs here or there. Let's say that one of the feature-length films does $100 million. He might get $2 million of that, which isn't necessarily a good deal for someone for someone who would be forced to bear the production cost of said content and to travel and all this other stuff. The amount of arrogance for Daily Wire to make that and make that contract, make that obviously, it was a negotiable proposal, is very, very low. It's very low. It's quite scummy, in my opinion, based off of the context, based off of what's actually in the contract. Again, this was an openly negotiable proposal that Steven Crowder could have accepted right off the bat, or could have asked for a difference. And to be fair, Steven Crowder did ask for a different proposal. He didn't completely close the door. He didn't completely burn the bridge with Daily Wire. When he got the proposal from Daily Wire, what he did was he said, start over. I find this to be an unacceptable proposal. You know we've already been demonetized on YouTube. You know we've already been banned off of social media platforms prior to this. So start over. Come back with a new one when you're ready, and I'd be willing to hear. I'd be willing to work with you guys if there's a good enough proposal. But Jeremy Boring himself admitted this in his video, responding to the Louder with Crowder video, the Steven Crowder video, saying, that he literally only talked about it with his other heads of Daily Wire for a few minutes before deciding on his own that he wasn't going to send another negotiable proposal, that he wasn't going to send another proposal, that he wasn't going to send another contract agreement. So really, the onus on Steven Crowder not partnering with Daily Wire is not on Steven Crowder so much as it is on Daily Wire. Steven Crowder did not completely burn the bridge. He said, send me a new proposal, start over, send me something new. Send me something new. When you have something new, send it to me. And Daily Wire said, nah, we're not going to do that. This is the best we can do. And contradictory statement in his own video, Jeremy Boring said, we knew we were lowballing him. We knew that we were going at the lowest possible contract because we knew that he was going to negotiate, beat it up, and come back to us with more. And to be fair, Steven Crowder did beat it up. He said, this is not acceptable. Come back to me with a completely new contract, a completely new proposal. But Daily Wire refused. So the onus on Steven Crowder's refusal to work with Daily Wire is actually on Daily Wire. And here's another crazy thing. Daily Wire would require Steven Crowder, in the contract, would require Steven Crowder to do 7 ad reads per video, which would fundamentally change the show, would fundamentally make a completely different piece of content, a completely different quality of content. And if he failed to read even one ad read, if he failed to read even one ad read on his show, let's say he had 7 and he did 6, but he wasn't able to get to the 7th based off of the amount of time allotted to him on his stream to YouTube, he would be fined $100,000 per missed ad read. I believe it was $100,000. There was also a $250,000 fine, meaning that he would get docked in pay from $100,000 to $250,000 per ad read or episode, this, that, or the other. And another thing was a very subjective view of what quality of content meant, meaning that if Crowder was forced to do the 7 ad reads, his content would change drastically. It would change completely. It would be a arguably completely different version of the show. The quality may even go down, and the amount of extra work that they were forcing him into through this proposal would have caused Steven Crowder's content quality to decrease by the standards of the Steven Crowder team. However, according to Daily Wire, that's the difference, is that if Daily Wire deemed that his content had declined in quality, meaning that Daily Wire had the sole ownership over deciding what quality of content really means in this situation. Now look, I still like some of the folks over at Daily Wire. I really do. Michael Knowles is my favorite Daily Wire host. I think he's very blunt, very honest, very open, and I really do appreciate his attacking the left on a continual basis. He also brings in theology all the time when he talks about things. And even though he's a Catholic and I'm a Christian and we have differing viewpoints on religious principles, I really do like Michael Knowles. I was a relative fan of Ben Shapiro. I was a relative fan of Matt Walsh, but they just didn't do it for me over the time that I watched them. I never really got into the Andrew Klavan show because I just didn't know he even had a show for years. So there's that. And Brett Cooper, I fancied Brett Cooper as a very important figure within the conservative sphere because she was a younger individual who was striking up conversations and creating waves in the industry at such a young age. Admittedly, she was probably doing so because of the fact that Daily Wire was bearing the brunt of the weight for that. Nevertheless, I did like Daily Wire. I still do like Daily Wire, but I do like Michael Knowles far more so than I like any other Daily Wire content out there. And I will continue to watch Michael Knowles because I do enjoy his content. I think he's a great Daily Wire host, and I think he's got a lot of very, very valid points, although, again, we do disagree on things theologically. But I will personally be standing alongside and supporting Steven Crowder in this. I really will. I'm going to go to his new mug club. I'm going to support him on Rumble. I'm going to support him on YouTube. I'm going to support him in every possible way that I can, so long as I don't go broke in the process, because Steven Crowder was the introduction to the conservative zeitgeist for me as I was growing up and as I was maturing and as I was getting more involved in politics. And I have not known Steven Crowder to deliberately lie to his fans, to deliberately lie to those individuals who he calls friends and family, people who have been a part of Mug Club. He has corrected himself on multiple occasions, come out with reclassifications of things that have happened in earlier episodes, and admitted when he has been wrong on multiple instances. And he's very, very honest from what I've been able to see and from what I've been able to tell. Now, Daily Wire did not reject the claim that Steven Crowder made regarding their demonetization of him. And Steven Crowder's point was not necessarily that he would lose money on the project. What Steven Crowder was actually mostly upset about, according to his own words, was that there are people out there who do not have the opportunity to reject this amount of income just on principle because of the contract that they were given. Steven Crowder was more concerned with the up-and-coming conservative creatives who are coming down the pipeline in the future than he was himself, according to his own words, according to his own video. And I highly recommend you go watch all three of the videos that were released, the Daily Wire one, the Steven Crowder, both the Steven Crowders. And if you really want a wonderful breakdown of what the contract says and what it means and what it would in turn result in if Steven Crowder were to have gone through with the proposal, go watch the Night's Watch breakdown of the Daily Wire Jeremy Boring video. Shad M. Brooks from Shadiversity and Night's Watch really takes a long time to break it down. It's a good 3.5 hour video of Shad M. Brooks just breaking down what each section in the contract says and states, and makes very, very clear that it's not necessarily the best or most affordable way to run a business. And he himself runs a business, so he actually has a lot of experience in regards to contract writing, proposals, hiring individuals, and bearing the brunt of cost for individuals based off of their workload, so on and so forth. And he makes up some very good points about sick days and leave that are taken part of in the contract and the proposal, which Daily Wire seems to have been quite cutthroat on in regards to sick days. You know, if Steven Crowder misses a day because he gets the flu or he gets influenza or some other sort of sickness, you know, if he has some sort of injury that takes him off the show for a while, or the show can't be produced because of some sort of natural disaster or something along those lines, they would fine him. I think that was the $250,000 fine, or maybe even $1 million fine. I don't exactly remember that part. I know it was an exorbitant amount of money per missed episode, and it did not give any leeway in that proposal for sick days, for natural disasters, for injuries, for deaths in the family, for anything along those lines, unless Daily Wire themselves deemed it acceptable for them to miss that day. So Daily Wire wanted to have authoritarian control over the Louder with Crowder podcast, over the Louder with Crowder content, over the Louder with Crowder business as a whole in totality. And seeing the contract, reading through it, going through it, breaking it down, and recognizing all of the very, very scummy details that were included in said contract really, really turned my stomach in regards to the way that the Daily Wire was willing to demonize Steven Crowder and his employees and his company after he deliberately tried to keep the names of the individuals responsible in said contract out of his video. He deliberately went out of his way to make it seem as though to not name any names. He simply called for them to make a change and for them to make a difference and for them to make better contracts. And even if they are just opening negotiable proposals, to make opening negotiable proposals, to make better opening negotiable proposals. And Daily Wire outed themselves like that. And so Steven Crowder responded with a 15-minute long video breaking down his thoughts on the subject. Young Rippa 59 actually broke down that video where he's a business owner of himself. He's the creator of ISOM #1 and the Rippaverse comics. He has had relations with both Daily Wire and Blaze TV, so he is relatively a neutral party when it comes to this. I highly recommend you go watch that video as well. He talks about this. I agree with him on a lot of points. I disagree with him on some points, but you have that in all facets of the world. People are going to agree and disagree on things perpetually. That's just how people work. No one's going to have the same opinion, copy and paste, you know? But nevertheless, that's my thoughts. This is a 20-minute long video of me breaking it down from memory, from what I saw in the contract, from what I should say, proposal. And here's another one of the scummy things. Before I close this video out, here's another one of the scummy things. If Steven Crowder had just signed the contract away and said, yeah, sure, we'll work with you, they would have gladly accepted everything on that contract. They would not have made any attempt to say, hey, did you recognize this in the contract? No, they would have just taken it. They would have just said, yeah, sure. And then the first time that he got demonetized on YouTube, which he already is, he would have been fined by losing 25%. 25% of his income from the Daily Wire. 25% of $50 million, which is ridiculous. And if he got banned on YouTube for a third time, he would lose another 20%, and he would not make that 45% back ever again. He would be forced to be operating off of a 55% income. So he would be making probably $25 million. No, more like $27.25 million over 4 years of work. So his revenue stream could be cut down drastically within a matter of moments, within a matter of hours, if the big tech platforms decided to just cut him out entirely, like they've done with other conservative creatives beforehand. Again, sorry for the bad camera angle. I'm driving and I'm trying to keep my eye on the road, so sometimes I move my phone in awkward positions. Nevertheless, I am coming to the end of the video. I am a bit parched, so I will be drinking out of my massive gallons worth of water over there. But I thought I'd share my opinions on this because I am both a fan of Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire platforms. And I think it's sad that these two conservative giants are going at it. However, when you look at what Steven Crowder is saying, and you look at the response the Daily Wire has had, it's hard for me to look at this and say that Steven Crowder is in the wrong. Because when you really break it down, when you really look at it, it really is an enforcement of big tech standards. It really is playing ball with a liberal establishment, which is something that the Daily Wire claims to be fighting against. Yet it seems as though, based off of their openly negotiable proposals towards individuals, it's not really that they're fighting against any of these liberal regimes. It's more so that they're working in tandem with them and are willing to punish individuals who go against the liberal regime based off of what is in the contract. And another thing is, Steven Crowder is already an established brand. Knowing that Steven Crowder is already an established brand and seeing the amount of stipulations that would lower his cost, lower his payout from the Daily Wire is low. For someone who is just up and coming, for someone who is just starting, it's a little bit more acceptable because of the fact that they have to prove themselves. But the Louder with Crowder show has proven themselves, and he has proven himself on social media platforms across the internet sphere, across the political sphere, for over a decade, I believe. Well, no, it started in 2014, so almost an entire decade he has proved himself of value time and time again as the most watched, highest quality conservative show out there, and the largest one. The largest independent conservative show out there, and he proved it once again by going on Rumble. So the fact that they're willing to take advantage of someone who has been proven so much over the last decade or so really makes you wonder what kind of shady, scummy stuff they would try to get away with an up-and-coming creative of a conservative nature, and how much they would screw that person over if they misstepped even once. Because again, Steven Crowder already been proven to work. already been proven to be effective in what he does, and they were willing to go this low. It doesn't sit right with me. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I know this isn't necessarily my typical video. I tend to cover pop culture, but because of the fact that I am a conservative and I am a Christian, I felt like covering this because it's part of the sphere of which I'm a part of. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts, share this video out there with your friends, subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss a single video that I upload, and make sure to check me out on all my different socials. I leave links to those in the description below. I hope you guys have a great day, and I really do hope you guys have a great rest of the week. All right, adios.